Torn by Kim Karr. Narrated by Veronica Munch and Christian Fox.
Prologue. Colorblind. Close your eyes and you can imagine what it was like. Hot, sticky, crowded. Smoke, flashing screens, and lighters flickering. Fans screaming, laughing, clapping, and crying. Bodies pushing, shoving, trying to catch a glimpse. Everyone wanted to see the stage. The lights, the equipment, the musician himself. He was running back and forth, singing, headbanging and playing his guitar. The lyrics were jumbled, his movements out of sync. The sound of the bass thumped through the crowd so loud my body vibrated with every wrong note played. I just wanted it to end. Nick Wilde had opened for the Counting Crows at the Hollywood Bowl. It was his second chance, and he blew it. The crowd was exhilarated at the start of his first song, and he owned the stage, but it didn't last long. By the third song, he was improvising, pulling notes, and forgetting words. He was lost in his own trance, soaked in alcohol, and no one could help him. Not Xander, not my mother, and definitely not me. Mr. Jones started playing before he even finished his fourth song, and he never played on stage again. Music was his soul. Music was in all of our souls. When we were younger, he taught us everything he could, how to play, to sing, the right way to command a stage. We knew every song by every artist. We traveled to concert after concert. Music was his life, and it became ours. But he wasn't happy just playing. He had a dream. He wanted to be famous. And somewhere along the way, his dream became an obsession. I'll give it to him. He got further than most do. By the age of 19, he had been signed by a label and cut his first album. But after a disappointing run, they released him. He spent the next 15 years working the circuit. Clubs, churches, weddings, birthday parties, as he waited for another big break. And then, just like that, he blew his golden opportunity. Everything in our life changed after that. The drinking got worse. Grandpa came around more to check on us, and Mom went back to work. Every day left another kink in his chain as he lived in his own world. I was 16 when his plan A became my plan B, and just like him, at a young age, I cut my first album. But unlike him, I had Xander. He wasn't going to let me fail. The band's album had a slow start, but after a year of touring, it started to gain popularity. I remember the first time the Wild Ones graced a real stage. We were restless. We had been sitting around for hours waiting. When we were finally up, we strutted confidently across the stage like we had in rehearsal, but really, we were nervous as hell. The lights were much brighter, and the audience so much bigger than we were used to. When the guys started to play, soft, barely audible words flew out of my mouth so fast I forgot to breathe. The band was drowning me out, and I knew it. Looking around, I adjusted the microphone height and took in the crowd. They were cheering me on with such enthusiasm that my voice finally soared over them. It was the same voice I'd grown up with, the one my dad had fostered. It was raw and present and soulful, and in that moment, my music came alive. The crowd went crazy, and just like that, my life changed again. Xander struck while the iron was hot. He arranged to go on tour. That was the beginning of the end for me. We started out small, smaller venues, shitty hotels, crappy food, and a lot of drinking. We opened for band after band, and the relationships I made, they kept me going. That, and being up on stage doing what I loved, it kept me going. Wanting to make my dad proud. Yeah, that too. But touring was a constant infringement on my personal space. I hated the cramped quarters, lack of privacy, constant, strict schedule, never being in the same city for more than 2 nights, people following you everywhere, people always wanting something from you. Even the girls throwing themselves at you got old. It was the longest year of my life. But I did it for him, because somewhere along the way his dream morphed into mine. What I came to realize was that his dream wasn't mine. My dad thought being on tour meant you had made it. His dream was about being famous. Mine is about the music. As the venues got bigger, so did the crowds, the fanfare, and I could see how you could get lost in it, caught up in it. But I was determined not to end up like my father. He was addicted to the fame. I'm addicted to the creative process. I hope that difference between us is enough. The tour ended, and we wrote. We played around L.A., and as time passed, life was good. But I had managed to put off cutting another album long enough. This time I was doing it for the band, and for my brother, and for me. Because I love the music. Cutting the album, that's the fun part. It's the promoting I dreaded, at least until the day I saw her through the glass. The girl who inspired our song Once in a Lifetime. The girl Xander always referred to as my muse. The girl who stole my heart one night and then crushed it at the very same time. She was as beautiful as I remembered, and with one glance she took my breath away. She walked my way, pulling a suitcase behind her, and my heart skipped a beat. I knew immediately she was the one sent to interview me, and suddenly any negativity I had about doing press was gone. I couldn't help but watch her. I wanted her unlike anyone I had ever wanted before. I had to stifle a laugh when her briefcase fell off the top of her suitcase and she glanced around to see who saw. I wanted to yell, "Only me, and don't worry because everything about you is sexy as fuck." I rushed to grab the door for her, but she pushed it forward and fell into me. Not that I minded in the least. I'd catch her over and over. There wasn't a thing about her that I didn't remember from the first time we met, and even the awkwardness of the moment brought me to full attention. When her body pressed against mine, I knew in that instant, this time, I wasn't letting her get away so easily. I'd go on 1,000 tours to have her in my life. There was just something about her, a light in her eyes that made everything wrong feel right. And just like my dad, I got a second chance. It was her. But unlike him, I wasn't going to blow it. When she extended her hand and said, "Hello, I'm Dahlia London from Sound Music. I'm so sorry I'm late," I knew she had to be mine.
Chapter 1. 1,000 Years. A glimmer of light catches my eye through the partially open curtains across the room as I wake. It must be dawn because the sky is turning various shades of pink, red, and orange. Before I know it, the sky blazes with color. It's as if it's on fire, just like my body. But I push my pain aside. It's a glorious new day, and I'm here to share it with him. I look at the gorgeous lines of his body slumped over in the chair next to my hospital bed. He's asleep, but not very soundly. I study him, taking in his strong jaw, sculpted nose, and toned body. But it's his soul, his playfulness, and his amazing personality that made me fall in love with him. He's so much more than I could have ever asked for. He's my soulmate in every sense of the word. Carefully removing my hand from his, I try hard not to wake him. Then I slowly ease myself up from the bed and make my way to the bathroom. When I return, the sun has fully risen, and so is he. He's staring out the window with the curtains now completely open. I sweep him with my eyes so that I can appreciate every little thing. At just over 6 feet, he's glorious. Strong shoulders, a lean waist, abs that seem to flex with his every movement. Arms crossed, his head cocked just so, his t-shirt tucked into his jeans haphazardly, and his stance so straight and sure. The soft bluish-gray sky of the early morning is almost as breathtaking as the sight of him. Trying to see what he's looking at, I only notice the fluffy clouds drifting by. They appear so white against the morning sky. They make me start to smile. But I know that's not what he's seeing right now. When a blue jay flies by and he turns around, I want to erase the pain I see in his sorrowful expression and sad green eyes. I don't want to dwell on the events of yesterday's incident, but he seems to be preoccupied with it. His mood has been somber ever since it happened. He calls it an attack. I prefer incident. After all, I'm here alive and merely bruised. I'm not going to waste my time thinking about one bad day. I'd rather celebrate the good things in each new day. But he blames himself. I haven't been able to convince him that if anyone was to blame, it's me. Then again, a random act of violence couldn't have been prevented. and thankfully, I'm all right. I just want to leave the hospital and go home. Grabbing my clothes from the chair, I throw them on the bed. I'm standing in front of him on the cold linoleum floor in nothing but a hospital gown. I make a twirling motion with my finger impatiently. Do you mind turning around? Sighing, he runs his hands through his already messy hair. I'm not turning around. I want to help you. Seeing what he did to you can't make me feel any worse. Believe me. I swallow the lump in my throat and try to gather the right words to respond and help put his mind at ease. River, it was not your fault. Some perverted animal looking to get his kicks by attacking women, that isn't your fault. He can't hide his shudder from my eyes. Dahlia, it wasn't a fucking incident. You were attacked. If I had been with you, it wouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have been sleeping. It's really just that simple. I stand there shocked by his tone, even though I know he doesn't mean to be so harsh. No, it's not just that simple. I start to argue, but he cuts me off. His shoulders sag. He promptly diverts his eyes to the ground and shoves his hands in his jeans pockets. I'm sorry, Dahlia. I don't mean to yell. I just can't stand that you got hurt. It kills me to see you like this, to know what could have happened to you. It just kills me. We've already had this conversation twice already. I already know my reassurances will go nowhere. So I repeat myself and contemplate making my way to the duffel bag lying next to the chair to get my socks and shoes, and then go into the bathroom to change. But I plead one more time. River, please turn around. He's standing in front of me with only the bed between us, but for some reason it feels like we're miles apart. He doesn't move toward me, but I can see the overwhelming emotion in his face and in his eyes. He's hurting. I can also hear it in his voice, and his sorrow not only makes me sad, it tears at my heart. I've never been shy around him. I just know that I'm covered in bruises, and I want so badly to spare him the heartache of seeing me this way. No, let me help you, he whispers. His tone is barely audible. With a deep sigh, I resign myself to his plea, and pointing near the chair, I ask, Can you please hand me that? Grabbing my bag, he sets it on the bed. As I untie the ugly green gown and slide it down my arms, he watches me. But not in an, oh, I want to see you naked kind of way. More like an, oh God, I might be sick way. The gown puddles on the floor and I stand there completely naked in front of him. I watch as he looks at me. He scans my body from head to toe before his eyes drift back up to meet mine and he swallows. In an attempt to lighten the mood, I pick up the hospital gown and playfully toss it at him. Your turn to play dress-up. His lips finally turn up in a semblance of a smile, but his eyes are still filled with sadness. I think I'll pass this time if you don't mind, he says, holding the gown up to him. Green isn't my color. Both of us smiling, I know he's looking beyond my bruises, at last. And all his love for me is now reflected in his eyes. It means everything to me. He strides around the bed and insists on helping me put on my panties and jeans. I want to comment on how easy it would be for him to get in my pants right now, but I refrain. But when he ever so carefully starts to pull my sweater over my head, I can't hold back. Grabbing his hand, I press it over my heart and look at him. See? You can touch me. I won't break. I'll even let you get to second base, I say, sliding his hand down to cup my breast. He resists at first, but eventually sighs and brushes his thumb over my nipple. A slow grin crosses his lips. Second base? That's it? I think I had a better chance with the pants. We both laugh a little, and I continue to hold his hand in place. His eyes burn into mine as he moves his hand to cup my cheek. Leaning into my ear, he whispers, You better stop it. You're going to get me all worked up, and when Nurse Smiley Face comes in here, she's going to kick me out. He pulls back, and I roll my eyes as he pulls my sweater down the rest of the way. I silently wince in a little pain. My shoulder is sore. My wrist is sprained. My body is bruised. The doctor wanted to cut off my bracelet, the only jewelry I was wearing, because of the swelling, but I begged him not to. It's the one thing of Ben's I have left, and I need it to always remind me to live my life with no regrets. Once I'm dressed, he gently places his arms around my waist and pulls me to him. "I'm sorry. Did I hurt you?" he whispers. "You could never hurt me," I respond in a low, comforting voice. Leaning back, he crosses his finger over his heart. "I promise I will never let anything happen to you again." The ache in his voice cuts through me, and I have to take a deep breath to prevent tears. I just want to throw my arms around his neck, but my aching body won't let me, so I settle for circling my arms around his waist instead. He, in turn, slips his back around mine, and we just hold each other. Then he kisses each of my eyelids and rests his forehead against mine. And with each passing second, I can feel our love growing stronger, if that's even possible. We stay like this in silence until the nurse enters the room. She clears her throat and he whispers, "Nurse Smiley Face caught us again. I'm in trouble now." I giggle and we pull apart. She's nice, but she didn't like it that River stayed the night. And once last night when I asked him to lie next to me, she came in to check my vitals and made him get off the bed. She takes my blood pressure one last time and goes over the discharge instructions left by the doctor. Basically rest, no strenuous activities, and if I experience headaches of any kind, I am to see my doctor immediately. Once I've signed all the paperwork, the nurse calls for an orderly, and when he arrives, he wheels me to the door. River gets his car, and we are finally allowed to leave the hospital. He decided earlier that we should spend the night in Tahoe and head home in the morning. On the way to the hotel, he looks over at me. "Did I tell you Xander and Caleb are here?" I look at him questioningly. "No, you didn't. Why are they here?" He laughs a little and says, "What do you mean, why? They're here to make sure you're okay." "But we're going home tomorrow. They could have just checked on me then." Shrugging his shoulders, he answers, "I know, but I wanted Xander to drive us back so I can sit with you." "Oh, that's really sweet of you, but not necessary." "I'm fine." "Well, even if you're fine, it's not a short ride, and I want you to be able to stretch out in the back seat. I wanted to be able to be close to you, to take care of you if you need anything." I look at him lovingly. He really does always say the sweetest things. Thank you. But why did Caleb come? Do Xander and Caleb even really know each other? I have to ask because it wasn't so long ago that I thought River didn't care for Caleb, and now his brother is riding up to Lake Tahoe with him? Yeah, of course they know each other. They've met a few times, actually. And since I decided yesterday to hire Caleb to install additional security in our house, I thought it would be a good idea to discuss the upgrade with him before we get home. That way he can start on it as soon as possible. We don't need additional security at home because of what happened, River. I think that's a bit much. Dahlia, I've never had the security system upgraded when I moved in, so I'm just taking a precautionary measure, that's all. You'll be coming back to LA alone during the tour, so I want to make sure you're safe. Shaking my head, I throw in, I didn't even think you liked Caleb. I never said I didn't like him. No, you didn't say it, but I felt it every time you talked to him. Well, regardless of how I feel about him, I know he's good at what he does. When I called him, he said he had the time. Oh, and one more thing. Caleb, or someone who works for him, will be escorting us places. I narrow my eyes at him. You mean like bodyguards? Well, I wouldn't call them bodyguards. Just additional security. That sounds really awkward. Dahlia, I promise you won't even know they're around. I doubt that. I rest my head against the window and close my eyes. I find the whole amp up the security thing a little absurd, but since it makes him feel better, I won't protest. When we get to the hotel, we learn that Caleb had our room changed, and he and Xander now occupy the adjoining room next door. I want to tease River. Yeah, we won't even know they're around. But I don't. The doctor gave me some pain pills at the hospital, and they've made me so tired that I spend the rest of the day in bed, snuggled in River's arms. I must have fallen into a deep sleep because when I wake, I look at the clock and it's well after midnight. The first thing I do is reach for him, only to find that he isn't next to me. Looking around the room, I'm a little disoriented at first, but I see River huddled in the corner with Caleb and Xander, discussing something in hushed whispers that I can't hear. When he sees me try to sit up and move to get off the bed, he hastily rushes over. "What do you need, baby?" he asks in almost a whisper. His face looks worn, tired, and worried. "I need to go to the bathroom and get some water." I try to smile at him, but my mouth tastes like it has a wad of cotton balls in it, and my body feels completely detached from my mind. I'm not sure I can actually walk to the bathroom without falling. I also feel lightheaded. "Let me help you," he says as he moves my legs to the floor and carefully helps me stand up. But when I start to wobble a little, I grab his shoulder for support. I think the pain medication has not only made me lightheaded, but also unstable. He's already wrapping my arm around him as he picks me up. "Dahlia, let me help you." Xander and Caleb look over at me, appearing worried. They stand and both say goodnight, disappearing through the adjoining door. Once we reach the bathroom, River gently sets me down and removes my pants. I grip the counter and begin to regain my stability. "Can you grab me a t-shirt?" I ask him quietly. "Sure, beautiful girl, whatever you need," he replies with a smile. When he leaves the bathroom, I push the door slightly closed and frown as I take the first real glimpse of myself in the mirror since I got home. I look much worse than I did earlier this morning. The bruises have turned purple, my wrist is still swollen, the scrapes on my cheek from where my attacker held my face to the ground are crusted over, and my shoulder aches from where he shoved his knee to hold me down. I carefully pull off my sweater and hastily wrap a towel around me. I consider a shower but decide against it. It seems like it will require too much energy right now. I do manage to brush my teeth. Once I finish, I look back into the mirror and see that he's standing behind in the doorway with such sadness in his eyes. He walks over to me as I wipe my mouth with a towel. "Let's put this on you," he says while pulling his long-sleeve 30 Seconds to Mars t-shirt over my head. "It will be easier to get on and off than one of yours, and it will keep you warm." I let him dress me like I'm a small child. Happy memories of my father getting me ready for school pop into my head. My dad would get me dressed and drop me off at school when my mother had to leave early for work. I loved those days. I loved every day my parents were alive. "You all right, Dahlia?" he asks with concern. Yeah, I'm fine." Then smiling, I tell him, "You dressing me now just reminded me of happy times when my dad would let me pick out whatever I wanted to wear to school, whether it matched or not. Since my mom wasn't home to make me change, I usually wore his concert t-shirts." He smirks. "You mean your mom, the fashion designer, didn't like it when you wore your dad's grungy t-shirts to school?" "How did you guess?" "Intuition," he tells me. "Personally, I think you make everything you wear look incredible, but I could see where your mom might have a different opinion." I lean into him just to feel his warmth and nuzzle his neck. "I wish you could have met my parents." "I may never be able to meet them, but I know them through you." Pulling away, I smile at him and press my palms against his chest. "That means everything to me," is all I can say, because it does. He nods and we stay silent for a few moments. "I think you should lie back down." Carrying me back to the bed, he sets me down on the opposite side I woke up on. But I don't care which side I sleep on as long as he's next to me. I take his hand and squeeze it. "Thank you." "You don't have to thank me," he says, kissing the top of my head. "I ordered you something to eat while you were in the bathroom." "I'm not really hungry. I'm just really thirsty." Pulling the covers up over my legs, he sits beside me. "You have to eat something when you take these pills," He opens the medicine bottle on the night table and pours 2 oblong white horse-sized pills into his palm, then sets them down next to the open bottle. There's no way I can swallow those. He laughs quickly and then stands up and walks toward the TV. I ordered you grilled cheese and french fries to eat, and a milkshake to swallow the pills with. He opens the adjoining room door and says, "Hey, Xander, just bring the food over here when it comes." I'm staring at his backside when he turns his head over his shoulder and catches me. He throws me a wink and I smile back. We don't exchange words, but we both start laughing, and I have to say, that is my all-time favorite sound. God, I love it when he laughs. It's soft but husky, and oh so sexy. I hold my bruised ribs in pain and he apologizes for making me laugh. River, it's okay. I want to laugh. And really, I just couldn't resist the view. He stifles more laughter and I ask, "Why did you order food and have it delivered to Xander's room?" I pause a moment before adding, "And why are we sharing a room with Xander and Caleb anyway?" His laughter stops and he becomes more serious. "We aren't sharing a room with them. The door closes between us, silly girl." As if to prove his point, he opens and closes the door in a swinging motion. Leaving it open, he walks back over to the bed and sits next to me. He cups my unbruised cheek before leaning in to kiss my forehead. "And I ordered food to be delivered to their room in case you fell back asleep. I didn't want the knocking to disturb you." "Oh, that makes sense. Well, now that you mention my favorite, grilled cheese dipped in a chocolate milkshake, I might be feeling a little hungry." "Have I told you how gross I think that is, by the way?" he asks, raising his eyebrows. "Only 1,000 times, and yet every time I order it you manage to steal a bite. And don't think I haven't noticed you dip it in your shake first." Chuckling, he pinches his thumb and index finger together and says, "Well, I might like it just a tiny little bit." I smile at him and lay my head down on the pillow just as Xander brings in the tray of food. River points to the empty spot next to me on the bed. "Thanks, man. Just put it down right there." "Dahlia, do you want anything else?" Xander asks. "Just a gallon of water," I say jokingly. My mouth feels like a desert in the middle of July. He grins at me and starts to pour the liter of bottled water into a glass as River takes my giant pills, along with a knife from the tray, and comes over to the table. "I'll take the whole bottle, please. No need for a glass." Xander hands me the water as River cuts the pills in half. "Stop looking like you're going to someone's funeral, Xander. I'm fine. You and Caleb really didn't have to drop everything to come up here when we're just going home tomorrow anyway." "Will it make you feel better if I tell you I came for my brother?" I take a huge sip of water and eye him before giving him a full smile. "Since I know you'd never admit you came for me, then yes, it will." He kisses me on the forehead. "Good night, Muse. If you weren't such a pain in my ass, I might find you funny. I might even like you." I don't mind him calling me Muse, since he repeatedly tells me the Wild Ones claim to fame as the song Once in a Lifetime, which River wrote after meeting me that first time. "I'll keep hoping and wishing for the day you say you love me." He looks at me with all trace of humor gone. "I'm really glad you're okay, Dahlia. Good night. See you in a few hours." Glancing over at River, he gives him a nod before closing the door. Our plan is to leave in the middle of the night to get home early enough for Xander to get to work. River comes to sit next to me, and once I swallow the disgusting horse pills, we share the tray of food and then fall asleep in each other's arms. Moonlight cascades through the windows and the stars shine bright above as Xander drives us home. Lying on River's lap, I'm listening intently to him. He's strumming his fingers through my hair and singing along to Losing My Religion, but his voice sounds sad, reminiscent of something almost. When the song finishes, I reach my hand up to caress his cheek. I love that song. I saw R.E.M. perform it at the Greek the year it came out. He takes my hand and kisses my knuckles. I have a love-hate relationship with it myself. Xander snickers from the front seat. "Yeah, more like it had a love-hate relationship with you." Combing my fingers through his hair, I tug on a strand and he grins. "Why? I ask. He slouches a little more so I can rest my head on the tautness of his abs. His fingers tap my arm and he laughs. When it hit the top 5, my dad decided I should learn to play the mandolin. He studied hit songs all the time, trying to dissect them for what drove them to the top. He took note of anything different used in its production, and Losing My Religion was only the second hit song ever to feature a mandolin prominently. Xander starts laughing so loud it surprises me. I don't think I've ever heard him laugh like that. River shakes his head. Shut up, Xander. River's eyes seem to dance in the moonlight at the memory, and it thrills me to see him laugh when he mentions his father. He doesn't mention him often, but on the rare occasion he does, it's never with any sign of emotion. I'm glad he has happy memories of his dad, like I do. I have a sudden urge to kiss him and pull his head down closer to mine so I can press my lips against his. Tell me, I whisper, tracing the outline of one of his perfectly defined pectorals. Don't laugh, but you know the saying, it's all in the wrist? I nod. It's absolutely true. Subtle, nimble wrist movements are the key to playing the correct note on the mandolin, and no matter how many times I tried, I just couldn't get it down. Tell her the rest, Xander interjects. River rolls his eyes. Okay, so my dad knew I was getting frustrated and tried teaching me by using the only other hit song featuring a mandolin. Xander laughs loudly again. Man, I can still picture it, he manages between snorts. I move to sit up, but River reaches out to stop me and continues, ignoring Xander. My dad was teaching me how to play Maggie May, so I watched some of Rod Stewart's music videos, and Xander walked in when I was practicing Rod's walk from the Hot Legs video. I had decided to give up my attempts at the mandolin, and decided I'd rather move like Rod. All 3 of us burst out in a chorus of laughter, and the vision in my head is priceless. God, sometimes it feels like my heart will burst with love for River. Everything about him drives me wild, but especially his sense of humor. His gaze captures mine, and although we're having a conversation with his brother, we've somehow moved from playful touches to sensual caresses. His hand rests on my stomach, and his fingers are under the hem of my shirt resting on my bare skin. I'm drawing lines back and forth across each muscle of his washboard abs. The lower I get, the heavier he breathes. Leaning down, his soft lips meet mine, and I wrap my arms around his neck and press harder. We get lost in each other for a moment, and a small moan escapes my throat. Xander clears his throat. The windows are steaming up. Could you 2 stop acting like a couple of teenagers? Then he turns the radio up. It's shortly before dawn when Xander drops us off at home. With coffees in hand, we sit outside and watch the sunrise. I'm content to sit near him quietly and appreciate the company. But in the calm of the bright, crisp morning, River asks me, "Why are we waiting to get married?" He kisses my hair and continues, "It seems like all I was really doing was waiting for you my whole life anyway. And I don't want to wait anymore." I shift so I'm lying on my side and can look up at him. I'm not really sure, but when you put it that way, I don't want to wait either. How would you feel if we charter a plane to Las Vegas and get married today? I can have it arranged in a matter of hours. We can fly up there, get married, and be back here by sunset. You don't mind if your family's not there? He hesitates only a moment before pulling me closer. His arms tighten around me as the green depths of his eyes stare into mine. I won't be satisfied until I wake up next to my wife every morning. Dahlia, all I want is you and me forever. We can celebrate later once you're feeling better. We can even have another ceremony here. But what happened in the hospital, I never want to happen again. So, will you marry me today? He's romantic, fearless, and full of life, and I love every inch of him. I loop my arms around his neck and my lips find his, smiling at him as the sun rises and with the Hollywood sign as our backdrop, I say, "River Wild, I would love to marry you today." He groans against my mouth and the sound echoes through my skin, making me smile even more. He kisses me, then he kisses me again, then some more. Once we're both breathless, he moves me enough to stand up. His smile, the real one, breaks across his face. "Stay here. I'll be right back." I have no intention of going anywhere, so he's safe. When he comes back, he has Stella firmly in his clutch. Joy radiates from him, and there's a familiar gleam in his eyes as he sits down at the end of the lounge chair with the guitar. The slight breeze in the air blows his hair. I move toward him and rest my chin on his shoulder, my front to his back. His hot skin awakens all my senses. I peer down and watch as his hand dances over the strings and he starts singing You and Me. As he plays, I can feel every motion of his body as if I'm the one playing. Curling my hand around his hip, I feel him shudder as heat travels through my arm. My eyes shift to his face, and it's a picture of what is real, what is right in my life, and what we have. True love everlasting. He sings the final verse, "The clock never seemed so alive," into my ear, and I shiver as his warm breath grazes the skin of my neck. I could watch him play and listen to him sing 1,000 times over and never grow tired of it. Not ever. He cocks his head to mine and picks the last notes on his strings as the sound of his music fills the air. And I can't help but think how lucky I am to get to spend the rest of my life with him. A few hours later, I'm sitting at the breakfast bar having just finished up a security system lesson with Caleb when the doorbell rings. I know who it is before River has answered it. Ari screams, "There you are! How are you?" It's only been 60 minutes since I called to tell her we were home, and she's already here. She runs over and I stand up slowly. My body aches much more today than it has since the incident, probably from sitting in the car on the ride home. "I'm okay, really. I look much worse than I actually feel." "I'm so sorry I didn't come to see you in the hospital. Work has been crazy," she says before throwing her arms around me in a tight embrace. I wince a little and she pulls away. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." Her face is full of concern. This woman who has helped me in more ways than I could ever count. Of course she's here now. And she's a vision of perfection in her red shift dress and black high heels with a matching headband. "I'm fine," I lie so she doesn't feel bad. I've talked to her on the phone so many times since I was hospitalized, I think she knows more about the incident than River does. "What's going on at work?" Rolling her eyes, she says, "The owner's son decided he wants to be more involved." But before she can finish, she's giving me a speculative glance. "Why are you dressed like that?" "Dressed like what?" I coyly ask, trying to keep my smile from exploding. "You're wearing a dress. In fact, you're dressed like you're going somewhere when you should be in sweats and lying in bed. You even have heels on. You never wear heels unless I make you." I glance over my shoulder to see River standing in the kitchen with Caleb. He nods his head. I'm so excited I just blurted out, "We're leaving this afternoon for Las Vegas to get married." She claps and jumps up and down with excitement, then suddenly stops. "Wait a minute. You are not eloping, Dahlia London. You can't. I want to see you get married." She hugs me tightly again before pulling away. Sorry, she says, wiping the tears from her cheeks and trying to gain her composure. I start to feel a little guilty, but rapidly try to push those feelings aside. "We'll have a party after the band's tour and all of us can celebrate then, okay?" River comes around the counter and hugs Ari before whispering something in her ear. Pulling me into his side, he says, "We'll celebrate later, but we want to get married now." "Is it safe for you to travel?" Ari says with concern. Nodding my head, I try to convince her not to worry. "Really, Ari, I feel fine. I promise." River kisses my hair softly. "Coffee?" he asks airy. "No, you know I don't drink that stuff. It's pure octane and tastes like it too." Laughing, he walks back into the kitchen, mumbling, "I don't know how anyone survives without caffeine." River's phone rings and I hear him say, "Xander, I told you I'm not meeting her today or tomorrow. I don't give a shit what she wants." I give River a concerned glance and he nods at me, flashing me what I know to be his make-believe smile. Once he ends the call, he turns to me. "Dahlia, I have a few things to take care of. Will you be okay?" Ari shoos him away. "She'll be fine," she says and pulls me over to the sofa. River comes over and kisses me again. "You sure?" "I'm fine. Go already," I tell him, kissing him back. "Okay. Caleb is in the music room if you need anything. He set up his computer in there for now. I won't be long." Ari and I talk for a while. Once she feels she has wrung every ounce of information from me, she stands and says, "I'll be back in an hour. Don't leave until I get back. I mean it." "Where are you going?" I glance at the clock. "It's a surprise. Wait for me. Please?" "Okay, you have an hour. That's it." She waves at me as she rushes out the door. With minutes to spare, she returns holding a gray suit bag in one hand and a shopping bag in the other. She leads me to my bedroom. "Every princess has to have a wedding dress to get married in," she says as she unzips the bag and pulls out the most beautiful white silk dress. Simple, yet elegant. It's a sleeveless cocktail-length dress with a deep V-neck and A-line skirt adorned with tiny pearls. There's also gorgeous yet subtly patterned silk embroidery on the bodice, making it special enough for the occasion, but not overwhelmingly fancy. It's perfect. She sits me on the bed and pulls out a simple pair of silver high heels and slips them on my feet. "Just like Cinderella, Dahlia. You got your Prince Charming," she says as a tear slides down her cheek. She pulls one more item out of the bag for me. I look at the beautiful white band of fabric with small blue jewels all around it as I take it out of the box. "The dress is your something new. Here is your something blue." It's a garter, and as she takes it from my hand, she slips it on my leg and up to my thigh. I laugh at her need to make sure I follow the typical bridal wedding traditions. Once she has powdered and primped me, covering my bruises as best she can with makeup, she stands up and removes the pearl earrings from her ear. "And these are your something borrowed." They are her great-grandmother's pearl earrings, the ones I've always loved. I remove my earrings and insert hers, then stand to look in the mirror. Now I really look like a bride. I throw my arms around her despite the pain shooting through me. "I love you, Ari Daniels, forever and always. Thank you so much." "You don't have to thank me. I can't have my best friend getting married in just anything. And to be honest, I was afraid you might end up in your Converse sneakers." I puff out a laugh and grab my camera. I hold it out in front of us and snap a picture. She's been my best friend for so long, I want to remember this time with her forever. Ari and I say our goodbyes. She has to get back to work, and I find myself alone, thinking about how drastically my life has changed over the past year. When I catch sight of my Grammy's pearls hanging on the mirror, I walk over to the dresser and pull down my something old. As I slip them around my neck, I have an odd déjà vu feeling. Today I'm going to marry the man who turned my life around, the man who taught me to love again. I thought Ben was my once-in-a-lifetime, but who knew a once-in-a-lifetime love could happen twice? I feel so incredibly happy, but a sudden sadness washes through me for those I've lost, and I shift my eyes to the ceiling to say a silent prayer for each of them. I tell my mother and father I wish they could be here with me today. I thank my uncle for looking after me and keeping me on the right path. I think of my aunt and her mother and how they taught me that life is full of magic. Then I whisper to Ben, the man I intended to marry, who was taken too soon, that I will always love him, and he will forever hold a special place in my heart as my first true love. I finish looking in the mirror and take a deep breath. I'm ready. The battery in my cell phone is almost dead, and I hope I have time to charge it. I walk into the empty living room and head over to the kitchen to get my charger. Once I've plugged it in, I turn around and see his gorgeous silhouette framing the doorway. He walks toward me, looking irresistible. All I can do is stare at him, because today I get to marry this man. River's mouth slowly curves into a smile. You look amazing. I return his smile and walk toward him. We meet in the middle and he gathers me close, whispering in my ear. Come on, beautiful. You don't need that today. We break apart, both of us ready to take the next step. His phone rings and he pulls it from his pocket. I glance at the screen and see it's his brother. He ignores it. I'm looking up at him while I ask, Hey, what's going on with Xander? What was that with him on the phone earlier? He looks back at me and shakes his head. You know Xander. He always wants what he wants now. And he wants what right now? He wants me to meet with Ellie. Who's Ellie? She's his contact for the label. Nothing to worry about now, though. He places soft kisses on my forehead. He pulls back and gazes into my eyes with a look of adoration that I love. Are you ready to become my wife? My legs start to quiver as I pull back to look at his handsome face. Only if you promise to love me forever. He cups my cheeks and says, Beautiful, I made that promise to myself the first time I kissed you. I promised to love you always. How could I not? My tears spill over at his heartfelt words. I love him so much. He's hugging me, not too tightly, but enough that I feel his love, and I know he will always be mine. He kisses me again and says, The instant you become Mrs. River Wild, I'm going to show you just how much. He grabs my hand and we head toward the door. Amazing Grace starts playing from my phone in the kitchen just as we're about to leave, and I turn back. River, let me quickly grab that. I don't want Grace to worry about me any more than she already has. I drop his hand and walk to the kitchen counter to answer my phone. Hello?
Chapter 2. Home. Ben's journal. I'm finally home and out of that conference room. I never expected to be back, so I can't say it's been a long road, but I can say I'm sure as shit glad to be here. Can't believe I'm in Laguna, the place that I love, with all the people I love. The suits reassured me before leaving the office on Wilshire Boulevard that my reappearance wouldn't be made public until the trial, so I won't have to deal with all the questions right now, except from my family and my girl. Seeing my mother was way more emotional than I expected. When one of the suits came in and told me she was talking to Special Agent Bass in the waiting room, I tried not to lose my shit as I tore out of the room. I wanted to be there when they told her. I knew it would be a shock that I was really alive. That I wasn't actually gunned down that night almost 3 years ago on my way to an awards ceremony while my girl watched it all go down from the car. I ran through the hall and past the round gold seal of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the framed picture of the president, and the various most wanted posters. The special agent talking to my mother was a woman, and they were sitting in the corner of the room. Mom was crying, so I knew she had been told, and her tears made me instantly regret ever agreeing to leave. Her face was an emotional wreck, and my remorse for the choice I made to leave, to not stay and turn this over to the FBI, weighed heavier than it ever had on my mind. But Caleb had taken things into his own hands and contacted them shortly after I left, so even though I hadn't known it, they had been involved for some time. When she looked up, her mouth fell open, and I could see she was shaky and unsure. She stood up, and I walked over to her to assure her I was real. When I was standing in front of her, she blinked and then sighed before throwing her arms around me. I was overwhelmed. I hugged her for the longest time. She was always my biggest supporter. To her I could do no wrong. I was her golden boy, the son that looked just like his father, the man she had also loved unconditionally. When I pulled back, I kept my voice soft and answered as many of her questions as I could. Our brief but emotional reunion was interrupted when the suit ushered us forward. We were escorted back down the drab hallway and into the same conference room I had sat in for hours, but this time they left us alone. Looking at me, my mother broke down, and I broke down along with her. I'd missed her. She, like Dahl, was always there for me, always believed in me, and always loved me no matter what. When she was finally able to compose herself enough to hear where I'd been for the past 3 years, I explained everything to her, including the events that brought me back home. I tried not to give her too many details, just enough so she could understand, but not too many that she'd grow more concerned. Once we got home, she called Serena and Trent, and they came right over. Serena was actually pissed at me at first. She yelled and screamed and then finally cried. Trent, on the other hand, wasn't just happy. It was more like he was relieved. He looked jittery, and I thought he might be on something. My mom looked really upset when I asked about it, and I felt like she knew more than she was telling me. But all she said was that Serena was going through some stuff with him, and had been having a hard time getting him to listen to her. We spent the rest of the day just talking. She told me how much she missed me. I thought seeing Dahl would be the most important thing, but after talking to Mom, I knew right then that she needed me more. It wasn't until later in the day that I got a chance to call Dahl, but Mom insisted we wait until tomorrow, and that she'd be the one to do it. I really didn't want to push, so I didn't argue. She already seemed so stressed. But I did ask her if Dahl was seeing anyone. She was hesitant to tell me anything at first, but she said there was a guy, and Dahl had been seeing him for a while. I guess I can assume he's the same guy Caleb told me about. It's not that I didn't want her to move on. I never thought I'd be back. But I just never thought I'd have to see it. I also asked if Dahl had dated many guys, and she told me no, just the one. I had hoped there were more, because that would make her more like me. She would have been doing what I had been doing, trying to find a substitute for her. When I first got to New York, I was lost. I had no one. For months, I didn't go out or talk to anyone. Then after a while, I tried to date someone, but everything we did just brought me back to the life I left, the life I missed, and it wasn't fair to that girl. I started teaching that fall, but it didn't help me forget Dahl. That Halloween, I knew she needed me, and I wasn't there. I went out and got shit-faced and fucked a girl that looked like her. It started me down a road I can't even remember. Work, eat, drink, fuck. I never thought I'd see her again, so I fucked about every tall blonde I ran into. And New York was loaded with them. But I never stuck around. They weren't her. And I didn't want to get that close. Over time, I stopped trying to replace her because no matter how much I wanted it, there was no substitute for her. As time went on, it didn't matter if the girl I fucked was tall, short, blonde, or brunette. They were all just there to fill a need. My need to have Dahl in my life never went away. But I met Kimberly shortly after Caleb told me he had seen Dahl with some guy in the hills. For some reason, although I hated that she had moved on, it brought me closure and I stopped fucking around. Kimberly and I started dating, and after a few months, I found a happy medium. I was able to have a relationship and function almost like I used to. I didn't screw around on her. I liked her enough. So yeah, maybe she looked a lot like Dahlia, but she didn't act like her. She never called me on my shit and never put me in my place. We had a good sex life and a decent time together. She wasn't needy and didn't pressure me for more than I was willing to give. We had a good thing going. Hopefully Dahl's commitment to this guy is like my commitment to Kimberly. Committed until something else came around. I was committed to Kimberly until I was told I could go back. I did call her and tell her I had an emergency back home and I'd be in touch soon. She didn't know anything about where home was. I was always vague. She knew I was from California. She knew me as Alex. I didn't want to explain anything different, so I haven't talked to her since I left. I'm going to call her. I owe her that. I just haven't figured out what I'm going to say. I remember the hardest part of thinking about Dahl moving on was accepting that at one time, I was the only one Dahl had ever been with. I had thought I would not only be her first, but also her last. Now I've lost that. And thinking back, I wonder why I didn't try harder to make our life together perfect. Is that why she stayed with that new guy? It drives me crazy trying to figure out what she could see in him. There has to be something because of all the things that have happened in the last 3 days. What my mom told me about Dahl shocked the shit out of me, and most of all, she told me Dahl's engaged. As if knowing someone else has touched her isn't bad enough. Hearing she's going to marry another guy has torn my heart apart.
Chapter 3. Here and Now. We head to Grace's house once I've changed into one of River's shirts, a pair of jeans, and my Converse. I'm worried about what made Grace call and say she wants to talk to me in person. I hope she's all right. She sounded like she had been crying when I spoke to her, and the sense of urgency in her voice was clear. My unease must be evident because River looks over and gives me a concerned look as he squeezes my hand tight. Then he gives me what I know is his fake smile, hoping to reassure me. I want to ask him what he thinks she wants to talk about, but I'm afraid of what he will say. What if Grace or Serena or Trent isn't well? My throat tightens and I pick up the bottle of water I brought with me, slowly twisting the cap and taking a big gulp. His phone sits in the pseudo ashtray charging, and I jump when it rings. Charlotte Tyler flashes across the screen. As I reach to grab it, he covers my hand. Let's not answer my mom's calls right now. I think Xander suspected something when I talked to him earlier. He probably mentioned it to Mom, and now she's calling to find out what's going on. I nod my head as the phone stops ringing. He picks it up and holds down the top button, turning it off. I turn the radio on and stare out the window. But when Gavin DeGraw's I'm in Love with a Girl comes on, I quickly reach to turn it off. I can't listen to that song. It always reminds me of the last time I saw Ben. I've never been so grateful to see the stone driveway leading to Grace's beach house as I am right this minute. As soon as the car is parked, River brings my hand to his mouth and kisses it before turning the ignition off. I can't take my eyes off him. And I know I'm probably squeezing his hand too tight. I'm sorry we had to postpone leaving for Las Vegas, but Grace sounded like she really needs me. He returns my quick smile. Beautiful girl, we're going to be together for the rest of our lives. Another few hours or another few days doesn't change anything. Let's see what Grace wants. And who knows, we might still make it to the airport later tonight. He opens my door for me and we walk down the path to the front porch. Looking behind me, I catch sight of Caleb parking in the large U-shaped driveway. It's a little ridiculous that he followed us all the way here, but now is not the time to discuss it. I also see Serena's car in the driveway near the garage, and my concern turns to full-out worry. I take a deep, calming breath as I open the front door. Grace, we're here! Sorry it took so long, there was a lot of traffic. I call out as I lead River into the house I've always considered a home. The large family room is dimly lit, and Grace stands on the other side in the kitchen doorway. I look around but don't see Serena or Trent anywhere. I notice the room seems to be in a bit of disarray. Shopping bags on the floor, a duffel bag thrown at the bottom of the stairs, and a stack of newspapers on the desk. Seeing us, she swiftly turns and walks back in the room. She wipes tears away as she approaches, and I know for sure something is terribly wrong. The feeling grows when she pulls me in for a long embrace. Dahlia, she sobs as she hugs me for what seems like hours. When she steps back, she cups both my cheeks. Oh, my darling girl. I'm just not sure how to do this. She drops her hands and gives River an odd look, quickly hugging him as well. Serena enters the room with a tray holding a pot of coffee and mugs. She sets it down on the table and says, Dahlia, River, you're here. Then she furrows her brow at Grace and says, Mom, come on and sit down. Give Dahlia some room to breathe. I can tell Serena has been crying too, and my worry becomes full-out panic. I turn to River for reassurance, and he grabs my hand and follows Grace, leading me to the large overstuffed sofa in the middle of the room. I sit down next to Grace with River on the other side of me. Grace, what's the matter? You're freaking me out. Tears are streaming down her face, and they're soon mimicked by my own. I look to Serena for comfort, but she too is crying. What's going on? My heart has started pounding quicker and quicker with every passing second. When no one answers, I squeeze River's hand so tightly it actually pulses in mine. Finally, Serena clears her throat and speaks. Dahlia, River, we have something to tell you.